This is Excel Chapter 3, and this is video part 2. In this video, we're working on the Froyo to Go 6-month financial projection. We have all of our headings in, and now we're ready to start with some numbers. So we're going to start down here on the What If Assumptions table. And in this What If Assumptions table, we're going to go ahead and enter our numbers using our sign. So I had told you previously you don't have to enter the percent sign, you don't have to enter the dollar sign. However, whenever you're dealing with percents, as some of you found out, if you try and change it to a percent after it's been a regular number, sometimes the percentage gets off. So you can enter these as a percent as you're going, and that's what we're going to do. So if you want to look in your book on page 147, that's going to give you all the numbers that you're going to be entering into this assumption table. If not, you can just follow along with me. So I'm going to be clicked in cell B19, and that is for my margin. I'm going to enter 77.50%, and I'm typing the actual percent sign there. Okay, pressing enter will take me down one for my bonus. I'm going to go ahead and just type in the 5,000.00. So instead of having to hit the comma sign whenever we're done to do the formatting, we're just going to go ahead and format it as we go. Sales revenue is 60,000, so 60, 123.00. My commission is going to be 30.00%, and because I typed the two zeros after the decimal, it's going to go ahead and format that with 2 decimal places for my percent. Kiosk rental is going to be 10%, so it's 10.00 and the percent sign. Marketing is going to be 5%, 5.00%. And equipment repair and maintenance is going to be 4%, so 4.00%. So we have all of our percents in. We went ahead and did the percent sign as we went, so we didn't have to format them. Okay, moving on. Now we're ready to enter in our projected monthly sales for the next 6 months. So this is in the revenue section. We're going to start in cell B4. And if you want to follow along in your book on page 148, it will give you all the numbers to type. And go ahead and just pause the video. Now, while you're typing these, you can type it in with the comma sign, with the comma, and with your period in 2 decimal places so that it formats it for you. Or if you prefer, you can just type it in regular and then do the formatting at the end. For example, on the first one, I typed it in with the comma. The next one, I'm just going to type my 52,000 is what it is. So I'm going to type 52 and then my 3 zeros. So it's not going to do my formatting, but at the end, then I'll have to highlight and come up and do my comma style formatting. So whichever one you choose, go ahead and pause the video while you type those in. Okay, now I have typed in all of my projected revenue for the next 6 months, and I'm ready to find the total. So you can find the total however you find easiest. The way I like to do it is on the Home tab. Be sure you're clicked where you want your answer, which is in H4. And then I'm going to go to my auto sum. Make sure that it highlights all my revenue for all 6 months. So that would be B4 through through G4, and press enter. Okay, so now we're ready to, we're going to enter and format a system date. The sketch of our worksheet showed that there was a date stamp on the right side of the heading section. This is going to show the date that the workbook or report or whatever was created, or what time period it represents. And this is actually a function called the now function is how you can do it. So we're going to go to cell H1, which is up here, and this is where we want to enter the date. So to do this function, we are going to click the insert function button, which remember is over here. Your button with the FX is insert function. I'm going to click on it. And I'm looking for the now function. So I'm going to type in now and search for function and hit go. See if it finds it. It did find it. If not, you can, for the category, it should be located under the date and time category, and you would just have to look down through for now. Okay, hit OK. It's going to, says it's going to return the current date and time formatted as date and time. There are no arguments to this function. Arguments are what do you want it to look at. It doesn't have to look at anything. And the formula result is going to be volatile, which means it will change every time you are in your document. So go ahead and hit OK. So you should see that you see today's date and time listed on there. Okay, we want to go ahead and format that differently. So I'm just going to come up here to my number launcher area. And I'm going to go to my date section. And I can change the date to the one that has the single month, the double digit day, and the double digit year. Oh, actually, I want the one with the 4-digit year. So I'm looking for this one up here. That is 3/14/2012. If you're in an old Excel, it may say 2001. That's okay. Just make sure you have 4 digits for your year and press OK, because I didn't really need to see what time I was working on this. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we want to make sure that this is wide enough or to adjust the width. So I'm just going to, here on column H, between H and I, I'm going to adjust the column width to best fit, meaning double click. Okay. Then it says, if instructed by your professor, select H2 and enter the place of your birth. So I want you to go ahead and do that in cell H2. I want you to type in where you were born. Okay. Go ahead and hit save. The next thing we're going to talk about may sound confusing. It's really not that difficult, but you do need to make sure that you understand this. Okay, this is absolute versus relative cell addressing. And when you're working in Excel, Excel's really smart. You've noticed when we use the fill handle or the copy paste that it fixes the formula so that it matches the new location. That is called relative addressing, meaning if we are adding up column A and we fill that formula over to column B, Excel's going to assume that we no longer want the answer for column A. We really want the formula to be the total of column B. So it's going to change our formula based on its relative location, meaning it will change it based on the information that it's adding above it. And every time you copy and fill that, it's going to change it based on the new relative address. So there are some things you can do if you don't always want this to happen. Sometimes you want the formula you entered, even though you're copying and pasting it, to always stay the formula you're entering. That means you want an absolute address. So this table is going to show you some examples of absolute, relative, and mixed cell references. To make something absolute, you're going to put a $sign before it. So $B, $4 means that it's an absolute cell reference for cell B4, meaning whenever you copy this formula, it will always leave it as B4. It will never, ever change it. B4, which we've already used, is relative, meaning if you copy this to another cell, both the column and the rows will change relative to the new location. You can put a $sign in just in front of the column or the row, which would make only that column or row absolute, and the one without the $sign would be relative. So this one would be relative column B, so B would change relative to the new location, but it would always use row 4. This one, it would always use column B, but the row would change based on the new location. So typing a $sign will make something absolute, which means it will not change. It is absolutely, positively what it needs to be. There is a shortcut if you're wanting to make the entire thing absolute like this one. If you press the F4 function key, which is on the very top row of your keyboard, that will add both $signs for you. So let's go back to our Excel worksheet and I'll show you how to do this. Okay, so here we are. We're going to click in cell B5 where I want to find my cost of goods sold. My cost of goods sold for this business is a formula which is going to be my revenue times 1 minus B19. B19 is my margin down here, which we have set our margin as 77.5%. So to do this, when we fill this across, we're going to want the B5 to change. So here it would be C5, here it would be D5, and so on. But we never want the margin to change. The margin is always in this box. If we left everything relative, it would move over to this cell, and there's nothing there. So to do this formula in cell B5, you're going to type equal, which tells Excel that you're wanting to do a formula. We want to take our revenue, so click on cell B4, which is where our revenue is located. We're going to multiply, so we hit the multiplication button or the asterisk or the star. Then we have to remember our sign, our order of operations. So we're going to put a parenthesis, 1 minus our margin, which is located in cell B19, but I want B19 to always remain B19. That means it needs to be completely absolute. So you can either type in dollar signs in front of the B and in front of the 19, or you can press the F4 button on the top row of your keyboard, and apparently my new laptop doesn't work that way. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to use the close parenthesis. So it should read equal B4, which is relative, meaning it will change, times, parenthesis, 1 minus B19, which is absolute, meaning never change, close parenthesis. Okay, so we're going to find our cost of goods sold, which is actually going to be, we are making 77.5%, so whatever that is from our revenue is what we're going to use for our cost of goods sold. So in this case, it looks like our cost of goods sold is $10,125, meaning we gave $10,125 for the materials that we sold for $45,000. Let me tell you, that is a huge markup, and that's pretty awesome. Most businesses don't get that much of a markup. So we're going to go ahead and do the next formula, which means what is our gross, sorry, I said that all backwards. This was our cost of goods sold, so that is how much we paid. So let's see what we have made on it. Yeah, so that is huge. So for this formula, we want to take our revenue minus our cost of goods sold. Sorry about all the confusion. So we're going to press equal, click on the revenue, which is in cell B4, minus our cost of goods sold, which is in cell B5. Do either one of those need to be absolute, or do they need to remain relative? If you said they both should be relative, you are correct, because when we copy this formula over to May, we wanted to use May's revenue and May's cost of goods sold. So I'm just going to press enter. So it looks like our margin, we made $34,875 on $45,000 worth of revenue. So that is really good. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at some of our what-if assumptions. And before we do our what-if assumptions, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. So be sure you watch the next video to see how to do the what-if, to do the if functions.